Hello, Bleacher Report listeners. My name is James Hill. I run the YouTube channel MrBucsNation, where we talk about all things Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I also do a lot of live streams here on the Bleacher Report app. That's what we're doing today, as we have another fun live stream today talking about the most underrated rookies for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in 2024. We're going to be taking a look at the Buccaneers draft class that they just had, as well as some undrafted free agents that they signed after the NFL draft as well. So hopefully you guys are strapped in, because it is going to be a lot of fun. And let's actually start with that 2024 NFL draft class. I know that I've got the undrafted free agent signings pulled up right now, but I do want to take a step back. I do want to go back to that draft class. And there was a lot of good players selected in that draft, right? You had guys like Graham Barton, Jalen McMillan. You had Chris Braswell selected as well as your first couple of selections in that draft. But there are also a couple of guys in those selections that I feel like people aren't giving enough credit, who could very well have some type of significant role in the Bucs offense or just the Bucs team moving forward, which that does kind of hint at what I am getting at here. But the first player I want to take a look at is going to be Bucky Irving, running back out of Oregon. Now, I say this to say this, I guess I should say, words are hard, but whenever Bucky Irving was drafted, I gave that selection, I believe, a B minus, maybe even a B. And, that isn't a terrible grade for the selection, but I say that Bucky Irving is underrated because, quite frankly, a lot of people aren't even rating this guy at all. And I feel like that's not fair to Bucky Irving. Now, is he what a lot of Bucs fans wanted him to be in terms of being a power back? No. He's more of an elusive back, more of a receiving back. His blocking ability isn't the best, but I feel like you have to give this guy a chance, folks. And I feel like a lot of people have already written this guy off. He just isn't going to have a role on this team, is what I've been seeing a lot of. And I don't think that's really fair. I do believe Bucky Irving will be battling hard for the running back 2 role for the Bucs. And he will have some level of impact on this Bucs team. So I've seen a lot of people say he's just going to be the kick and punt returner. I don't think his role is going to be, kept to just that. I think he will be a piece in this Bucs offense. He will be a guy who will relieve Rachaad White whenever Rachaad White needs a breather in this offense. Bucky Irving is going to be a possible change of pace back, be a guy who is going to be getting some possible significant snaps on the offensive side of the ball. Now, people were unimpressed with a 4.55 40-yard dash. You take a look at the overall athleticism. He was the 24th ranked running back in terms of athleticism at the NFL Combine. But you take a look then at the comparison, Dameon Pierce, a really solid running back come out of college football. Then you take a look at his 2023 year. There's lots to like, folks. Second team all Pac-12 conference, 1,180 rushing yards on only 186 carries, by the way, for 6.3 yards per carry. And he tied for the team lead with 11 touchdowns. He started all 14 games, also had 413 receiving yards and 2 receiving touchdowns as well. Also didn't do any kick return work during his last year at Oregon, which, I don't know why people would think that he is going to be a kick returner then, but maybe they took a look at his previous year where he had 5 kick returns in 2022, but I don't know. But let's go back to that 2022. Honorable mention, all Pac-12 conference. Had another 1,000-yard rushing season on only 156 carries, good for 6.8 yards per carry, 5 touchdowns as well. 299 receiving yards and 3 receiving touchdowns. Folks, Bucky Irving produced in his past 2 years in college football. He did. And whether you think he's too slow, a lot of athletes in college football, and they couldn't catch Bucky Irving to the tune of 1,000 rushing yards in 2 years in a row. So All I'm saying is give this guy a shot. That's all I'm saying. It's going to be interesting to see how he gets along, and he's going to have some chances to prove a lot of the, let's call it, doubters wrong. I think he's very underrated at this point because people aren't even rating him at all. The next player I want to focus in and talk about here is guard Elijah Klein out of UTEP. Now, this is a pick that a lot of people, I believe, liked, to be fair. The reason I feel Elijah Klein is underrated is because of the role he very well possibly can have here very early on with the Bucs. I've mentioned it a few times here on the Bleacher Report app and just on my YouTube channel as well. You know, the Bucs drafted Graham Barton to be a center. Whether you agree or disagree with that, Jason Light came out and said they're going to play him as a center, and that's going to be what his initial role is going to be, is a center. I am personally of the belief that he will be the starting center for the Buccaneers. And I don't think he's underrated at all. I think Graham Barton is fantastic. I think he's going to be fantastic for the Bucs. But that does still leave a question mark at left guard. What are the Buccaneers going to do at left guard? And you have some options. You've got Sua Opeta that the team brought in from the Philadelphia Eagles. You've got Ben Bredesen, who the team brought in from the New York Giants, who started every game for them last year. You've got Robert Hainsey, who was supposed to be competing at left guard a couple of years ago until Ryan Jensen had his unfortunate injury that would eventually end his career. And Robert Hainsey was thrust into the starting center role for the past couple of seasons. You've also got Elijah Klein in that mix now as well. Now, I am still of the belief that Robert Hainsey will be this team's starting left guard going forward, but I really wouldn't count out a guy like Elijah Klein. I mean, really, I guess I wouldn't count out any of them. It's going to be an absolute fight for that starting left guard role. But Elijah Klein's a guy coming out of UTEP that a lot of people like. It is a very Jason Light draft pick coming out of UTEP. 6th round guy as well. 6'4", 306 pounds. Was projected to be a round 7 type of guy, right? But a first team all conference USA in 2023. Played 10 games at right tackle. 10 games at right guard, 1 at right tackle, 1 at left tackle. 2022 honorable mention all conference USA, started 12 games at right guard. 2021 honorable mention all conference USA, started all 13 games at right guard. 2020 started all 8 games at right guard. 2019, 6 starts at right guard. Then in 2018 is the guy that played 2 games at left tackle, 2 games at right guard as well. This is a guy who's got a lot of versatility. And the Bucs love versatility. They do. Elijah Klein is a guy who you can slot in at either guard position if you want him to. Put him in maybe at a left tackle, well, maybe a backup right tackle type of situation, maybe a backup left tackle type of situation. But it seems like he's mainly going to grade out to be a guard. And I feel like he could be a legitimate force to compete for that left guard spot. I really do believe that because the guy was an absolute beast at UTEP. How's he going to transition going into the NFL? We're going to have to wait and see, but the Bucs have had success with small school guys in the past. Ali Marpet's a good example. Cody Mock is a good example as well. Will Elijah Klein be added to that group? We don't know. We're going to have to wait and see, but I like Klein a lot. I like what he brings to the table. I like what he brings to the competition that the Buccaneers are going to have. And I really do believe he is a guy who can make a possible impact at the Buccaneers offensive line. But folks, that is it for the draft class itself, right? I want to transition to some of the undrafted free agents that the Bucs have been, I guess, signing, dealing with throughout this process, because there are a couple of folks in that mix as well that I want to talk about also, because I feel like it is important. And, there are a lot of interesting names that they brought in. Now, we'll be talking about these guys in rookie mini camp and things along those lines, but there's a lot of names in that mix as well. The first name, perfect, he's right here, Kalin Delo, linebacker out of FSU. This is an interesting cat, man. 5'11", 210 pounds. You take a look at his career statistics, 212 tackles, 24.5 tackles for loss, 11 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, 2 interceptions, 1 fumble recovered, 11 passes defended, and 1 defensive touchdown. Right off the jump, that's some pretty good stats. You know, he only started really his past 2 years. He had 7 sacks in his final year in college football. And everybody knows how good Florida State was. Everybody knows the overall level of ability that organization had, that defense had, really. And Kalin Delo was a big part of that. Right now, as it stands, the Bucs have, let's call it a bit of a question mark after Levante David, right? At that linebacker position, you have KJ Britt, you have Servassier Dennis, you have JJ Russell, who started games for the Bucs last year, but there isn't a clear-cut answer to who that linebacker 2 is going to be. It's not Devin White. He's gone. He went to the Philadelphia Eagles. Can Kalin Delo make so much of an impact, so much noise, that he could possibly be a guy who is getting a legitimate consideration for linebacker number 2? I don't know. I'm going to lean on no, but I don't hate the question. I don't hate the theory, right? I mean, this is a guy who ran a 4.47 40-yard dash at 210 pounds. It's pretty darn good. 30.5-inch vertical jump, 9-foot 11-inch broad jump, athletic linebacker, right? I'm going to say don't count him out. That's what I'm going to say. Don't count him out. I'm going to be curious to see what Kalin Delo does, how he gets along. I think that he is one of the more interesting undrafted free agents Buccaneers brought along. I'm going to be curious to see what he does. Also, I really like Antonio Greer coming in out of Arkansas, USF, former USF guy. I'm always going to give him credit. 6'1", 230 pounds. He had 10 sacks in his college career. Now he's, 4.63 40-yard dash, 4.39 20-yard shuttle, 22 reps on the bench press, man. That's impressive. That is impressive. And I'm curious to see Antonio Greer as maybe a developmental linebacker, maybe a practice squad type of guy, somebody that you can have as some developmental pass rusher type of guy, maybe. He's got an interesting size. So I'm going to be curious about Antonio Greer. I'll throw him into that mix as well. I also want to talk about Daniel Griziak coming in here out of Cincinnati. 19.5 sacks in his college career. 4.58 40-yard dash, by the way, at 245 pounds. Could be a developmental pass rusher, in my opinion. With a 35.5-inch vertical jump, 10-foot 5-inch broad jump. I like this kid's athleticism. 4 forced fumbles, 2 fumbles recovered, 5 passes deflected. He has a lot of versatility to his game, has a lot of ability to his game as well. Is going to be another undrafted free agent worth talking about. Now, there's a load of guys, on these lists as well. I'm not going to mention every single undrafted free agent. I like Tyreek Thunderberg a lot as well, coming in at 6 feet tall, 185 pounds, 11 interceptions in his career, by the way, coming out of App State. 4.39 40-yard dash. Folks, it wouldn't surprise me at all if this young man made the Bucs roster. I mean, you take a look at the stats, you take a look at the production, you take a look at the overall athleticism. Good player. Very good player. I think at minimum, he's a guy that makes your practice squad. And Tyreek Thunderberg, pay attention to him just going forward. Now, we have seen players like this before, right? Where you take a look at the stats, looks great. You take a look at the overall combine or pro day numbers, looks even better, right? And then they get to the NFL and they don't have a great impact, right? I hope that's not the case with Tyreek Thunderberg. I'm really interested in this young man at the cornerback position. I want to see how he gets along. I think he could do a really good job. And I'm for sure interested to see how he grows and develops at that cornerback position. Going down here, I want to take a look at DJ Williams, running back out of Arizona, formerly Florida State, former Auburn in that mix as well. Florida man from Lake Placid, Florida. Big running back, folks. 5'10", 225 pounds, 1,394 rushing yards, 14 rushing touchdowns, 4.59 40-yard dash, 4.59 20-yard shuttle, 7.49 3-cone drill, 30.5-inch vertical jump, 9-foot 1-inch broad jump, 16 reps on the bench press. Now, I talked about how Bucky Irving is underrated, and I do believe he is, but the Bucs still need a power back. Can DJ Williams be that guy? And I've mentioned him a couple of times here on this platform, on YouTube, on the Bleacher Report app. DJ Williams is going to be an interesting running back, in my opinion. I think he can be a candidate to make this Bucs final roster. I think he can be a candidate to have some level of an impact on game day as a short yardage running back. Now, I know some people will say, well, that telegraphs what the Bucs are doing. Maybe, but I'm going to be curious to see what the Bucs do in short yardage situations. Maybe DJ Williams can be some type of guy in that mix as well. You know, I want to talk about Judge Culpepper as well. I know that I've mentioned, I was not going to mention him because I've mentioned a lot of these undrafted rookies, but Judge Culpepper, son of Brad Culpepper, coming in at 6'4", 293 pounds, 13 and a half sacks in his college career, 19 tackles for loss. I like this guy a lot. This kid, you know, if he's anything like his dad, is going to be a productive defensive lineman in the NFL. The Bucs do have a need for backup defensive linemen. They do have a need for depth in special teams players at those types of positions. I think Judge Culpepper is a guy who can be a candidate to make the bottom of the Bucs rock. I really do believe that. You know, came out of a situation in Toledo, formerly of Penn State as well, was able to put up some good stats in his college career. I'm going to be interested to see what he does. 28 reps on the bench press is fantastic, by the way, as well. Very strong defensive lineman. Can play inside, can play outside as well, I believe. Could possibly be a guy in that mix as well. Now, when I talked originally about some of these undrafted free agents who signed, I was really interested in Zack Anstead. And I still am interested in Zack Anstead. He had 3,547 passing yards, 27 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, 6'2", 220 pounds coming out of Illinois State. I do think he's going to be a guy who's competing at quarterback position. He was one of the first undrafted quarterbacks that they brought in. So I do believe that he has to make some noise here. But there's also a young man that I feel like hasn't really been talked about too much. I'm going to have to go all the way down here to take a look at Michael Ayers, quarterback out of Murray State, Northwest Mississippi State Community College in Samford. This is an interesting quarterback. I really do believe that. A 74.3 completion percentage, 6,594 passing yards, 50 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions. 4.90 40-yard dash, 31.5-inch vertical jump, 9-foot 2-inch broad jump. I feel like Michael Ayers and Zack Anstead are really going to be battling for like a developmental type role at the quarterback position for the Bucs. You know, some practice squad type of spot maybe. Wouldn't surprise me if the Bucs had 5 quarterbacks, you know, out of rookie minicamp. Maybe they'll only keep 4. I don't know. But I hope they keep 5 because I want to see some of these young quarterbacks continue to battle it out, right? Some of these young quarterbacks continue to try and make a name for themselves, you know? And heck, I mean, hey, let's talk about some other quarterbacks that were brought in. I mean, you know, those 2 guys are going to be in the mix, Ayers and Anstead. I mean, Musa is on a tryout contract. He put some interesting numbers while he was at FAU. 44 touchdowns to 20 interceptions, 3 rushing touchdowns as well. Shout out Ron from FAMU. But, you know, it's going to be a fun couple of quarterback competition there between Ayers, between Musa, and between Anstead as well. I always like talking about quarterbacks just because, and I'll always say this, you never know who can make an impact. You never know. And I feel like quarterback's a big part of that. I feel like quarterback is always just going to be a fun position to talk about. So wanted to throw those guys in there. A couple of more names before we get out of here, folks. Some kind of rapid fire ones. Avery Jones is going to be an interesting offensive lineman out of Auburn. I really like that he came from a big school. I like Latrell Jones out of Southern Miss. He's a big, you know, interesting kind of build of a wide receiver. The stats weren't there, but I feel like ability possibly could be. Sean Peterson Jr., I think, was a very fun linebacker for UCF FIU. 6'3", 240 pounds, coming out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Could make some impact, in my opinion, as well. Couple names I want to throw in here is Jack Freeman out of Houston. I think that he legitimately could be a backup center for the Bucs coming in at 6'3", 300 pounds. And really, folks, that's kind of it for the underrated guys. Don Chapman, defensive back out of North Carolina, 6'1", 200 pounds. Did he run a 4.72 40-yard dash? Yes. Did he make a lot of plays? Wow, at North Carolina? Also, yes. So that's kind of it, folks. I mean, there's a lot of undrafted guys. There's a lot of draft picks, obviously. There's a lot of rookies. But hopefully you guys have seen and maybe even agree with some of the guys that I feel are underrated for the Bucs and why I feel they are underrated. Let me know your guys' thoughts and opinions. I would love to hear them. Thank you guys so much for watching this live stream here on the Bleacher Report app. Make sure you stay tuned for everything here on the Bleacher Report app, not just related to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Again, my name is James Hill. I run the YouTube channel MrBucsNation, where I talk about all things Tampa Bay Buccaneers, where you can find all my streams here on the Bleacher Report app as well, where we're always talking about the Bucs. But if you want to know anything about the NFL, NBA, MLB, NCAA, or anything else in between, you're going to find that right here on the Bleacher Report app, folks. It's the greatest source for all things sports. Hopefully you guys stick around, not just for my streams, for all the content here on the app as well. Guys, thanks so much for watching this live stream. Hope y'all enjoyed. As always, folks, I'll see you all in the next video or the next live stream. But until then, and as always, guys, again, my name was James Hill. See you soon, and go Bucs.